until...
Why does somebody not know how to flush a toilet after they've had a shit? Disgusting!
What's shaking, Authortube? My name is Cam and welcome back to another video. I'm not sure what specifically inspired me to do this video today, but today I'm chatting about Authortube. I'm chatting about basically everything Authortube. How I feel about it after all this time, where I'm at in the community, I guess, what it's done for me and my writing, blah blah blah. I also made a post in the YouTube community section asking you guys if you had any Authortube questions you wanted me to answer, so I'll be doing some of them as well. Now, I don't want to brag or anything, but if you search Authortube on YouTube, I'm certain that I'm on the first page, I think. And it's quite an old video, so I wouldn't blame you for not knowing, but I was actually around when Authortube became a thing. Obviously, people have been making videos about writing and all that kind of stuff for quite a long time, but it never had its own little branch, I guess. And eventually someone said, alright, let's make it a thing, and they called it Authortube, and I made a video kind of discussing that. I'm not saying you have to go watch it to summarize it, it's really just that I was optimistic for what it could do for the writing community, and I've continued to say pretty much the whole time I've done Authortube that I feel like Authortube is actually a part of Booktube. It's just a bit of a branch, it's a bit of a niche, because if I can generalize, pretty much all authors are going to be, or aspiring authors, are going to be avid readers, so we would fit in pretty well with the Booktube community. Whereas not anyone in the Booktube community would have aspirations of being a writer, so I like to think of it as Booktube is the parent, I guess, and Authortube is just one of the children. Another child of Booktube, I guess, could be PoetryTube, although I don't think that really took off as much as the others. I guess my main point here is just that yes, I was around when Authortube first became a thing. Yeah, I'm flexing on you. I was around before it was cool, whatever. But something I've kind of noticed, and one of the main reasons for me doing this video, is that it never really occurred to me that I'm not really as involved in the Authortube community as a lot of other Authortubers are, and it was just a bit bizarre to me because my channel is a hybrid. It is based on a lot of Booktube-centric stuff and Authortube-centric stuff, and my channel itself has gone through quite a lot of changes in regards to my writing. The most recent one being one of my most recent writing videos where I talked about how I actually took my books down. That was a whole big thing. So for once, I can't really pretend like I know everything about what's going on in Authortube because I'm pretty out of the loop. So let's take a look at some of the questions that you guys left for me, and thank you, by the way, for leaving questions. I make quite a lot of posts on the YouTube community section asking for input for my videos. This channel is very interactive with you guys, so you guys help with a lot of my videos, and I appreciate that. So I think the number one thing that people want me to address in regards to Authortube is the Authortube drama. Here's the thing, I've never really been one to get involved a whole lot with drama on Booktube or Authortube. I'm not saying I haven't ever done that, but I try to avoid it where I can. But in avoiding it, I kind of missed a lot of what it was actually about, and what it is apparently about has the potential to be quite harmful to quite a lot of people. So I'm not even going to attempt to try and tell you what the full drama is regarding, because it's just so extensive at this point that I feel like it's going to branch off and have its own lore, its own mythologies and legends at this point. But I will say this, all of the Authortube drama that I've tried to read into recently, it's all come back to one person, one Authortuber, one creator, at the center of it all, and it leaves everyone with one burning question. Just who is Kristen Martin? I'm not going to trash her, I'm not going to roast her, because everything I know about her has been told to me from other people. I haven't really had a chance to research it for myself, and to be honest, I don't really think that's necessary in the form of me making a video, because it's being covered by so many other people, and covered quite well. If you are interested in the Authortube drama and what it involves, what happened, the repercussions to a certain extent, then I would recommend watching this video by Pistachio Paperbacks. I think she did a pretty good job. And if I can take a moment to shout her out, I found her channel through this video, but she's actually pretty funny.
Because this entire course is $2,500. $2,500, bitches.
She's really entertaining and has some quite intelligent insights on the whole thing, so I'll just recommend it. I'll leave a link to that video in the description. But while I'm not going to trash talk Kristen Munn, I will say that if all of the stuff that I've heard about what she's doing, what she's done, is true, and there's no reason to believe it isn't at this point, yeah, it's pretty fucking shady. What it kind of reminds me of is, you know that episode of Family Guy where Brian tries to prove that self-help books and all that kind of stuff are garbage, so he writes his own in one day and it actually ends up becoming a bestseller, so he buys into it and he starts to believe that he's fantastic. And then he goes on the Bill Maher show and he gets torched. But there's a particular part in that I think is so reflective and so true of situations like this.
It seems that these sort of books tend to pander to the laziest kind of self-help within the narrowest socioeconomic range. Yeah, you can wish it and you can do it, but only if you have the educational advantages, the societal advantages that, 5% of the country has?
And especially with Kristen Martin, I've noticed that a lot of the stuff that she's selling for a lot of money is a lot less about education and more about telling you contrived garbage and making you actually do the work. And what Brian does in his book in Family Guy is he leaves half the book of blank pages so that you can write down your dreams and your wants, and by doing so you are manifesting your future, and it just silly shit like that. There is obviously a lot of actually valuable self-help out there, stuff that can actually be pretty healing for people that need a bit of guidance. That's fine. I'm not trying to shit talk the self-help profession as a whole, but I am 100% convinced that there are a lot of people in the self-help profession that like to use that point of influence to make a profit off of vulnerable people, and that's what it feels like Kristen Martin is doing. She's providing the shell of a product and charging an exorbitant amount of money and making you actually do the work. But that's just how I feel about the situation based off of what I've been told. But yeah, there's actually so much history I can't even begin to get into it, so just watch the video I was talking about before by Pistachio Paperbacks. Off the tail end of the whole Authortube drama, aka Authortube vs. Kristen Martin, one of the questions is, how do I feel about Authortubers offering courses, services, and Patreon accounts? So Patreon accounts I have absolutely no issue with whatsoever. If someone's creating, content on the internet, if they're using their time to try and entertain people or educate people, whether you think it is entertaining or is educational or not, I still think they have every right to seek reward off of that creative hobby. As for courses and services, that's a bit different. I've said, I think in one video way back in the past, I think I said that I have no issue with it because if it's good, it'll sell. If it's not, it won't. But my opinion's kind of changed because I've come to realize that's not necessarily true depending on how it's marketed. And marketing is a huge part of this, and that's another reason a lot of people take issue with Kristen Martin, because it seems like the way she's marketing this stuff is a borderline con. As for Authortubers offering paid courses as a whole, or services like editing, etc., I just don't know if I can get behind it 100%. If that person has a professional history in, let's just say, proofreading and editing, if they have a professional history in doing that, and they're kind of going to a freelance thing and using Authortube as a marketing platform for that, 100% fine, go for it. But if that Authortuber's entire experience with proofreading and editing is based off of their own writing or them being an avid reader without the professional experience or the extensive certifiable education behind them, I don't think it's very ethical. I absolutely don't think it's ethical to be charging as much as the masterclass courses that you see getting advertised on YouTube all the time, and apparently some of these Authortubers are charging as much, if not more, and I think that's just insanity. And some of the marketing strategies that have been used to try and get people to purchase these courses, well, it's concerning. I mean, it's quite close to manipulation, really. Honestly, if I could summarize on the whole Authortube is offering services and courses thing, I would just say that I would advise against spending a lot of money on this stuff, especially if it's not money that you have to spare, unless they can provide solid evidence that they have a professional history in what they're offering, or a very reputable and extensive educational history. I love Authortube, I love writing, but doing that for a few years does not in any way qualify you to offer courses in writing advice or getting published, etc. That's a practice I personally disagree with. Another question that a few people have kind of alluded to in different words is Authortube is providing writing advice when they haven't actually finished or published a book or anything like that. And I've already said in a few other videos that I don't have a problem with this, and I think it's a bit pretentious to take issue with something like that. If you watch an Authortube video where they're giving writing advice or something like that, and you feel that the writing advice is flawed or potentially harmful to the quality of someone's writing, go ahead and write a polite comment explaining why you disagree with them. Or hell, if you're a creative person yourself, maybe you could make an Authortube channel providing writing advice of your own, or videos explaining some of the flaws that you see in writing advice that's floating out there. Regardless of whether someone has put out writing or not, I don't think that immediately detracts from their ability to provide some helpful feedback or insight to other writers out there. I don't think that's a quantifiable truth. It runs along the same vein of giving writing advice that doesn't necessarily reflect in your own writing. If you give writing advice and then you put out a book after that completely contradicts the writing advice that you gave, I would understand people getting a bit concerned about that. But completely rejecting the idea that writers can become more educated and evolve as writers and just become better than their past writing is it's stupid. It's just dumb. I've given lots of writing advice in videos that directly contradicted some of my past writing because I became more educated. I spent time seeking out professional assistance. That's just what I did to better myself, and that ended up being transferred into some of my videos. And I'm sure there's a possibility that some of the videos I do in the future may contradict some of the writing I'm doing right now. I don't know. The point is that I hope in a year or two I am a better writer than I am now. I hope I do know things that I don't know right now. If you make the decision to stop writing until you're the best writer you can be, you're never going to get a book finished. Because you should always be trying to improve. Jesus, what was the question? Should Authortube only be for people who have actually put books out? No, I don't think so. Obviously, literally everything else in life, there's caveats to that. There are going to be Authortubers who give bad advice that contradicts the next book they put out. It just happens. But should that disqualify everyone else on Authortube from being able to share some of the things that have helped them in their writing? No, that's stupid. And that's just not what Authortube's about anyway. Authortube is always about a community of aspiring writers. Yeah, there are going to be some successful authors peppered in there, but if Authortube was exclusively for successful published authors, there would be 2 or 3 people here because all of the successful published authors are too fucking busy to be making videos for YouTube. How beneficial do you think an Authortube channel is for new writers? I think Authortube as a whole is extremely beneficial for new writers, but as for people actually making videos to upload to Authortube as a new writer, I don't know, I guess it would be beneficial to, in the future, look back on your older videos and see what you were doing at that time. Maybe you were doing stuff wrong, etc., like we were just talking about just a second ago. I think it would be beneficial in that way. I don't know if you're a brand new writer, if you're making videos for Authortube, if that's gonna help a whole lot. But I know that watching Authortube videos as a new writer is extremely helpful. Is it easy to become a part of Authortube? Is it a place where you can be open about your opinions and preferences without being accused of being racist or nationalistic, or otherwise phobic of any kind? Get the feeling that authors censor themselves too much in fear of being unjustly flayed. Look, the short answer is I think you have a pretty good opportunity on Authortube of being quite honest with your writing, although this kind of goes for BookTube as a whole rather than just Authortube. But let's just be real, it's a pretty left-leaning platform, and when people tend to go the other direction, it does at times blow back in their face. Sometimes justly, sometimes unjustly. The joke is almost a cliche in itself at the moment, how bad the cancel culture or outrage culture is in the book Twitter universe. And unfortunately, that does involve BookTube and Authortube. But honestly, I feel like unless your writing is just flat out offensive, you should be fine. I feel like a lot of authors do get a lot of shit talking done on them just because they write stories about challenging subjects, or they write about the troubles of someone that doesn't reflect the exact experience that someone with similar troubles had. So it must mean that they don't know what they're talking about and they're just exploiting people. It gets a bit absurd sometimes, but then on the flip side, there's, like I said before, there's always caveats, there's always examples of authors just doing the wrong thing. Look, all I would say is do your research. If you are telling a story about a challenging topic, make sure that it is genuine and reflective of real life. And aside from that, just do you. Writing fiction is a creative hobby like any other. You're free to do what you want, really. Is Authortube necessary for you now? From the outside, Authortube seems totally irrelevant. Some of the more successful writing and book-based channels have nothing to do with the community. Why do you stay or care? I don't know if I would say Authortube seems irrelevant from the outside. In fact, I would probably say the opposite. Since the start of Authortube, the community has exploded, and honestly, I feel like in a lot of ways it's a lot more active than even BookTube. While I don't feel like it's necessary for me, I don't feel like BookTube is necessary for me either. I feel like it is extremely helpful for me in regards to what my dreams are for the future, to be an author. Necessary, no. Helpful, sure. Helpful in that it helps me to be a better writer, and obviously it's helpful in the way that it's a platform as well. When I finish a book, I'm obviously going to have an easier time marketing it to people than if I didn't have this platform. I also don't think it's necessary to be a part of the Authortube community if you don't want to be, and it's okay if you don't want to be. I do. I mean, I'm not really, but that's my own fault because I don't really try hard enough to get inside of the Authortube community, I guess. I think you could find the exact same level of success in the Authortube space whether you were in or outside of the Authortube community. I don't think that matters a whole lot. I think it helps if you are inside of the Authortube community, but necessary, no. At the end of the day, it always comes down to the quality of your content. Do I feel that it's a female-dominated platform than male? Honestly, anything I could say about this, I've already spoken about at length in my the male booktuber tag. Everything I say in that video can double up for Authortube. I don't know if I would say dominated because all guys obviously have the freedom to join Authortube if they want to, but there's obviously a lot more females on Authortube and BookTube than males. That's just how it is. It's not a problem. It's just that guys generally aren't as interested in reading and writing as females are, at least within the age group of people that upload to YouTube. It can feel like a bit of a girls' club sometimes, and I don't know, maybe that's part of the reason why I haven't been super enthusiastic to try harder to join in the Authortube community, but I don't know. It's never been a point of contention for me. Some of my favorite Authortube channels? Shit, man, I don't know. You've got like some good advice channels like iWriterly, Cloud Kitten Chronicles. Stephen Partridge is always a delight to watch. The Bookish Pen Babe is pretty good as well. There's a whole bunch. I'll leave some links in the description. I think one of the last things that a couple of people wanted me to mention as well was Authortubers reviewing each other's books. I've done that once. I reviewed The Demon in the Trees by Ben Sanders. I don't regret doing it. I was completely honest. I gave him 3 stars. It was good, not great, but I don't know if I would make a video review for a friend's book again. Obviously, I want to support them as much as I can, but it's just awkward, and I don't know. I didn't like doing it. It's just a personal choice. I don't think I would want to do that. If other Authortubers are gonna review their friends' books, and obviously, like I said, they want to support them, that's cool and everything. And I agree with their freedom to do that. I think in doing that though, they need to be aware of and be understanding of the fact that people are going to assume there's a bias there. And let's be real, there more than likely will be a bias. In a professional sense, I think that if you know that you are unable to do an honest and genuine review of your friend's book, if you know that you're going to hold back and rate it differently to how you would if they were a stranger to you, then probably don't do the review. But if you're confident that you can do it honestly, go for gold. The thing is, you can still support your friend's new book without having to do a review. If one of my BookTube or Authortube friends published a new book, I would definitely support them by letting people know in a video that it's there and that it's for sale and that my friend wrote this. That doesn't mean I have to read it and review it in a video. So I think a good question to finish up on is from Feral Kid. What are you most grateful to the Authortube community for? That AdSense, baby. I'm just kidding. You know what I'm grateful for? I'm grateful for how supportive people were about me deciding to give myself a bit of a clean slate, because I honestly was expecting more people to call me a hack because of that. What I'm referring to is me taking down books that I wrote and self-published quite a number of years ago. I took them down because they were part of a series that I wasn't able to complete. I wrote myself into a corner, and because of poor quality of writing, I wasn't able to confidently finish the series, and I didn't want to keep selling half a series, so I took them down. And honestly speaking, I also took them down because I feel like they had a very real potential to negatively impact me in the future. In the video, I said that it was the only get out of jail free card I was going to give myself. I'm not going to do this again, but I just wanted just one clean slate. And people were pretty supportive of that, so I appreciate it, I really do. A lot of people were calling me brave for doing it, and I obviously really appreciate that, I do, but it wasn't brave. I mean, it was a hard decision, sure, but it was a completely self-serving decision. I did it entirely for myself, so I don't know if brave would be the word, but I don't know. I was building up to making that decision for quite a long time, and as much as I told myself I wouldn't do it, it had to happen eventually. I think that pretty much covers it. I think I've spoken about, or at least given my opinion on pretty much all of the current Authortube dramas and polarizing topics, etc. But if you have any other Authortube stuff you would like me to address in a future video, feel free to leave a comment. As always, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Catch ya.
She's got class and style, street knowledge by the pound, yeah. Baby never act wild, very low key on the profile. Catching feelings isn't all. Let me show you how it goes. Loves the world, spins the vibe. Lovers